This is Greg Pruitt, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go, off and running here with the Sports Fix. Took me a minute to get back here with you guys. I was sending out some of those last-minute tweets and social media stuff as we get rocking and rolling, and here we go. End of the week edition, back live in the saddle here on the Sports Fix. J-Rocc kicking it off here, and we are going to get rocking and rolling. Jonathan Knight, the sportswriter extraordinaire, is going to be with us. Jeff Gorman from Indians and Browns 101.com back in the house today, as well as we have got ourselves an NBA Finals matchup set. We're going to talk about that. The odds are in from Vegas. The prices are in as well, starting to already trickle in here, and much higher than last year's Finals ticket prices already in the secondary market. We're going to talk about that. Cavs and the Golden State Warriors, a matchup that for quite some time, a lot of people around the NBA and in general here in Cleveland, all over the place, focused on this being a potential finals matchup, and here it is. You've got the individual matchups, you've got the stars on both sides, you've got two franchises that have gone a long time without success, without championships, without all of these different narratives. The hometown guy coming home. I mean, there's a lot of storylines in this one, and they've got a whole long, what do we got, 6 days left from today to hype this thing up. It'll be at DEFCON mode. It'll be at Super Bowl level hype by the time June 4th rolls around, and I can't wait. I cannot wait. I can't wait to start talking about it here. Jonathan Knight, as I said, just 10, 12 minutes from now, he's going to kick in to start the show and start the conversation, so we should get rolling too. We got a lot to do. Tribe as well. They've got, multiple winning streaks since the last time JK was here. We're going to talk about it all. Let's do it. Rock and roll. Welcome in, my friends, to the Sports Fix here on a Friday, end of the week edition of the Sports Fix, end of the month as well. Final edition of the Fix here for the month of May. And you know what, by the way, I didn't even mention it because it just kind of slipped my mind a few days ago, but we passed the birthday once again of the Sports Fix. That would be the 7th anniversary now of the beginning of the show. 6 full years in the books, and the Sports Fix rolling around again here, man. It was May, what was it, May 20, that was the last, just a few days ago, and I don't have it in front. I believe it was the 26th of 2008 was the first time Vic and Nick and Kevin Welsh and those guys cracked the mics of the Sports Fix back on WHK on a Saturday night at 10 p.m. And here we are, still rocking and rolling all this time later. But final edition of the Sports Fix for the month. When we come back, it'll be June. And, man, the Cavs are still playing hoops in June, man. So isn't that a great thing? Welcome in, you guys, to the Sports Fix. I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, here with you each and every weekday at noon, like we are today, across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Thank you for joining us, whether you're listening live on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio app worldwide, on Spreaker and Mixler and their respective digital and mobile apps, or maybe you're enjoying the show live, as we say every day, on our home base, thesportsfix.net. the one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports, sports fix, sports news, all the information you need. Our social media widgets are built right in. Live broadcasts of the show every day at noon right there from the home base, thesportsfix.net. Welcome in as well the many, many thousands of you around the world who enjoy the show day and night, all different times, 24/7. On places like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, on all the podcast formats, however you do it, wherever you get your fix, as we say. Thank you guys so much for doing it each and every weekday right here on the Sports Fix. And hey, don't just do it. I see the phones ringing already. I'm going to crack those phone lines. I've got enough time to get one or two in right off the bat before JK joins us. But be a part of the show. This is us. This is you, the voice of the Sports Fix. That's how we do it. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. The number to call anytime, day or night. Facebook, Twitter, do the social media thing. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix, CLE. Email us, baby, the SportsFix at AOL.com. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the SportsFix, CLE. Email us, the SportsFix at AOL.com. We're talking Cavs and Warriors, Indians, Corey Kluber continuing. What a month, by the way, for Corey Kluber, just to quickly, and we'll go a whole lot more into this later, but finishing the month of May now, 60 strikeouts and only 6 walks after a rough month of April, getting his feet underneath him, and all the talk of what's up with Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber answered that with an astounding exclamation point in the month of May. His last 4 starts, Corey Kluber, 50 strikeouts as he dropped a baker's dozen last night. Think about that. His last 4 starts, 18, 12, 7, and 13. He's got a 1.41 ERA in his last 4 starts. Corey Kluber has definitely awoke, as have the Indians here in the way they've played. They, like I said, multiple winning streaks since the last time we talked. Jason Kipnis, don't even get me started on him. He's not only got the most hits by an Indians player in the month of May in 101 years, but check this out. He has 48 hits with a couple of days still to go. Kipnis has 48 hits in the month of May. In the American League, there's only 30 players who have 30 hits on the season so far, on the whole season. And Jason Kipnis has got 48 in the month of May and counting. We're going to talk a whole lot more as the tribe behind Corey Kluber yesterday. 5-3 victory to start that series. And you guys know me. It's like the sports gods were looking out for me this week, because kind of going through basketball withdrawals after we got to wait this week for the finals. And here comes my favorite personal type of Indians baseball, Late Night Tribe Live, as they hit Seattle. And I was up late last night, as many of you guys probably. I enjoy that. It's the quiet of the night. I'm a night owl anyway. And you watch some Indians baseball into the wee hours. I said, boy, this West Coast trip came right as we ran out of basketball games. So there you go. Basketball gods looking out for me. We're going to talk about all of this, you guys. Cavs, Warriors, Tribe, Browns, a lot more to come. Jonathan Knight joining us just about less than 10 minutes from now. Jeff Gorman as well. But I'm going to start off with you guys. Caller, you're up on the Sports Fix.
Big Daddy, good afternoon, baby.
Hey, what's up? This is Bob from Bristol, Connecticut. My man, how you doing?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. What a fantastic pitching performance again by our young Indian.
Absolutely,
our right-handed version of Sudden Sam. I mean, this young Indian loves these multiple strikeout games, man. He's just
absolutely.
He's just fabulous, as well as the whole young Indian pitching staff this year. They didn't wait till July, beginning of August, to give him some support. They're all pitching in now when you have to. And I think Sports Illustrated might have been right when they
Well, let's
when they
slow
talk
down,
about our young
Bob.
Indians, man.
I know we're excited about the Cavs right now, and the Indians are climbing towards 500. But let's not start shaking our finger at Sports Illustrated just yet. But I know where you're going. But let's not do that just yet. But the Tribe is now 22-25, back to within 3 games of 500, and they've got a chance here. And I like last night's victory too, because that was a team that was coming in, much like when Texas came in hot. Seattle was warming up, and you were able to cool them off yesterday on the road. And, really, Kluber, the only trouble he had was giving up the home runs. Other than that, I mean, he really had a very solid performance again last night.
And that was a meatball J-Rocc.
Absolutely.
No big deal. No big deal.
But look, the bounce back by the Tribe. I like what they've shown this week. And I know that, keep in mind, we're talking about facing the lesser teams, but be fair, earlier in the season, we're talking about facing a lot of the better teams. But over the last weekend, you had the sweep of Cincinnati over the holiday weekend. Then Texas came in hot, and really, as we know, the Indians kind of handed them the first 2 games of that series, came back and put the big crooked number on the board to get that back, and now another set of back-to-back wins. After going so long without that here, it was good to see that they didn't fall into a multiple-game losing streak. You had a little stumble there.
Absolutely.
They've won 2 in a row here. You've got another one coming up, as they've got 3 this weekend late night in Seattle. But that's a good thing, too. I like to see that. And it's progress, man. We're closing in on the beginning of June, and they're closing back in on 500. It at least opens the door for a lot more interesting summer here with the Indians.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And Captain Kip, like you had mentioned, is he's terrorizing that little P. He's terrorizing it, man.
Absolutely.
He's doing a job. And
it's not. I don't think people.
The whole team is really. It's really gelling, and it's a combination of the coaches, the manager, and these young Indians staying together. The nucleus of this team is just. It's fantastic. Up the middle, on the sides. It's just a fantastic young team, and it's so great to watch as well as your Cleveland Cavs. I mean, the whole city in Ohio has just got to be. I was talking to the wife last night. We definitely got to get out there before everybody comes down off the clouds out there in Cleveland. My favorite city away from Bristol, Connecticut here. We definitely got to get out there. And I lost 51 pounds, baby. 51 now.
Way to go, Big Bob. Proud of you.
Oh, yeah, man. I told you, man. We're going to tag team. We're going to tag team, baby.
Keep plugging away at that, Big Bob. We'll talk more about it here in a little bit, but you mentioned Kipnis again. I don't think people understand in perspective. It's not just a hot month. What he's doing, it's going to go down in history as one of the hottest stretches for any batter in Major League Baseball history. I mean, wherever it ends. Because it's up there.
Al Rosen hasn't done it. Lou Boudreau. I mean, it's
very up there.
Captain Kip is just an amazing young Indian ball player. Thank God he's on the Indians, man.
Think about what I said there right before you called, Bob. He's got 48 hits in the month of May, right? In the American League. In the American League, there's only 30 players who, for the whole season so far, have more than 30 hits on the season. And he's got 48 and counting in the month of May.
That's mind-boggling with all the great young. Yeah, it's just it's out of this world, and
that's carrying a team kind of a bat right there.
It's happening with our young Indians. You know what I mean?
Bob, I gotta go, my friend. Thank you very much for the phone call, buddy.
Okay, buddy. You have a great day.
You got it. My man, Big Bob from Bristol, Connecticut. Fantastic voyage in the background and in the foreground. Let's take a break and get right back. Jonathan Knight, sports writer extraordinaire, joining me, and we're going to ride that voyage, talking some Cavs and Warriors. As we now know, the finals matchup is set. We'll talk some Indians and the making of Major League. It's out. It's on the shelves. Jonathan Knight, let's talk about it, and maybe we just have to put a copy into one of your hands. You want to win a copy? Listen next. Jonathan Knight, sports writer extraordinaire, coming up next here on the Sports Fix. Don't go anywhere. We are rocking and rolling on a Friday, baby.
Ain't nobody crying, ain't nobody dying, ain't nobody worrying. Everybody's trying. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. If you want to have something, you better stop fronting. What you gonna do when the 5 roll by? You better be ready so you can ride. Come along, we ride on a fantastic time. Slide, slippity slide. When you're living in the city, it's do or die.
Get your fix.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got to do.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. Define what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor will because of this city. We owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you here as we roll on. Jonathan Knight getting ready to join me, the sports writer extraordinaire, and he has written it extraordinarily again, by the way. Making a Major League. We're going to talk about that here, hitting the shelves, and we're putting a copy in somebody's hands. We've got so much going on this week. I am so glad to have JK joining us. Get the Indians, multiple winning streaks since we talked last time. And the Cavs, you know, I mean, it's every day that they reach the NBA Finals, so it's one of those kind of weeks. And you can join us on Facebook and Twitter. Keep it going. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. You can't go to the phones because that's where this man resides. Jonathan Knight, my man. JK, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing quite well, Jerry. Really, is there any excuse for anyone not to be in a good mood after the week that we have had here?
Seriously, what's not to like? And I'm not talking about lotto balls, baby. I'm talking
about
that's
the thing. That is the thing. I'll think about I was thinking about this week, ever since Tuesday. Think about how much so it's been 4 years that I've been coming on the show, and you think about the range of topics that we've talked about. Most of them have been pretty miserable. You know what I mean? I mean, most of them have not been very much fun. Other than maybe the Indians' drive there in 2013 when they got that wild card, that was pretty much it. I mean, we hadn't had any postseason appearances until the Cavs this year, and now here we are. We get to talk about the Cavs in the NBA Finals. Look at how far we've come. Yeah, we've been talking about, Nick Gilbert getting the right ping pong ball. Like, that's the type of stuff that we're talking about this time of year. And now, finally, after 4.5 years, we get to talk about the Cavs in the NBA Finals. How about that?
Man, you know what? That's a scary perspective. As you were saying that, I'm sitting back thinking, I'm going, boy, we've had a lot of conversations, man. Once a week for 4 years, just about. I've been 2011, and I want to say it was like January of 2011. It
was right when Pat Shermer had gotten fired. That was the first thing we were talking about.
Yes, and we've gone through all of that stuff, man. And I think
I'm sorry, Mangini getting fired. I'm a year ahead of myself. That was when Mangini got fired and Shermer.
That was when Shermer got hired. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was when Shermer got hired. Right.
Oh, we've gone through some ugliness, all the long losing streak, all of that, man, and 4 trips to the finals for the Miami Heat, and all of the stuff, man, and the Browns over and over again. Manny Acta years, we went through those together, man. And
oh God, yeah,
we've come out the other side alive, man. We're okay.
Yeah. Finally, we deserve this. We deserve it. Among many, many people who do deserve this, you and I deserve it.
Yes, many people, man. And our luck has been turning, as we've noticed this year, though, man. We've lucked into some interesting days with you and I talking, man. And then here we sit, like I was texting you earlier. You got the book, you got the finals, and the Indians, they got on 2 different winning streaks since the last time we talked last week. All season, they couldn't get on one. Now they're like, hey, we're going to just make a habit out of this. We're going to win a couple in a row every once in a while, you know? What's up with that?
Surreal. It feels like they've started the season. Like they started about 6 weeks late, but this is sort of like, okay, this is what we expected. Not necessarily they're going to win every game, but this is the team we expected to see. I don't know what that first 6 weeks was, but these last 2 weeks is like, yes, okay, here we go. This is what we expected. They're not perfect. They have their flaws, but this is what we expected. This is what we thought certain individuals would do. This is what we were promised. This is what we thought was going to take the field in April, but better late than never, I suppose, but they're here now, so let's embrace this.
Yeah, and they've still got a lot of work to do, and there's still some changes to the roster. But I got to say, I've thought all along, there's no way they could be that bad, like compared to where people thought. Maybe they weren't going to be as good as some people thought, but there was just no way. And me personally, I kept going, man, okay, I'm not perfect at figuring this stuff out, but I couldn't have been that wrong about this team and what they were going to look like. And I got to think that part of the beginning was a combination of them not playing well, absolutely, combined with some snake-bitten stuff, but also playing a bunch of good teams early. So that magnifies it because your margin for error is already lower as it is, and you're scuffling to get yourself going. I just think that there were multiple things at play there, along with them doing themselves no favor with the way they were playing.
Yeah, and I think that in terms of individual performances, I think because this was a team that was so built around its pitching, that when that pitching struggled, everything fell apart. And what you've seen here in these last 2 weeks, led by Corey Kluber, is you've seen, okay, yes, this is what this team is capable of when the strength of the team delivers. So it took them however many times through the rotation to get it right, but they're getting it right. And you can see what this team is possible, what's possible with this team, what it's capable of, when Kluber, when Bauer, when Carrasco, when you have those at least 4, and they're still obviously trying to figure out what to do with that 5th spot, but when you have at least 4 of those guys sort of doing what you expected they should have done, this is what you get. You get a couple of weeks of, I think, 10 out of 14 is what it's been. They won 6 in a row, as you said. Yep. And dropped a few in there that they should have won. So, yeah, this has been a very nice stretch, and this is what hopefully we'll see for the rest of the year.
Yeah, they could very well be on a 10-game winning streak right here had they not thrown that game away and messed around there with Texas. And that's why I was glad to see them bounce back, take that last game the way they did. And they looked frustrated with, putting that big number on the 8 runs in the third inning and then winning that game last night. Get back on that winning track here, heading on the road. They're closing in on June. We talked about, can they be 500, get Jan Gomes back by June 1st? They're right around there. They're 3 games back here with a couple days left to play, and that's right about where they'll be here. I mean, the thing that worries me, the starting pitching is exactly where we thought it was going to be. I mean, look at the stretch these guys are having. It's the bullpen. Is this starting pitching going to have to go 8 innings, 9 innings every time out? Because that's the problem, as we've seen, is being able to get those 3 or 6 outs between the 7th inning and the 9th inning,
Yeah, and I think, I just like we said with the starting pitching, I think that this bullpen, again, not unbeatable, but it is better than what we have seen. What we've seen in these first 2 months, they're better than this. Cody Allen is better than this. A lot of the other guys that have struggled, or at least been inconsistent, I think that's the biggest problem. They just haven't been consistent from one outing to the next. They're better than this. So I think that they, too, will turn the corner, hopefully soon. But I think Cody Allen he still has 10 saves. I know he has not looked good. His ERA is still up around 6, and he tends to go the Joe Borowski route when he does close one out. But he did, go 3 last night. He got 3 quick ones, 2 strikeouts, no hits, no walks. So I think that time is coming, and I think if we just hang in there, sooner or later we'll get everything sort of clicking on all cylinders, because they're, for as good as they played here these last 2 weeks, like you said, they still haven't been at their peak. Everything is not firing the way as it could potentially be. So there's still room for improvement, and that's good. If you can go on a nice winning streak or a nice stretch of winning a few games and realize, we're not playing our best baseball, that's a good sign.
Absolutely. One more Indians thing real quick. I have to mention this with you before I go in anywhere else. Jason Kipnis. I said it with the last caller before the break, before you joined us here when Bob brought him up. It's not just a hot streak. What he's doing is historically going to stand the test of time here as far as one of the hot months or hot runs in baseball history. He's got 48 hits and counting, Jason Kipnis, in the month of May with a couple of days left to go. There's only 30 players in the American League that have 30 hits or more on the whole season so far, and Jason Kipnis has got 48 in the month of May. No Indian has done that in 101 seasons. That's how long it's been in Indians history. Just amazing. 449 in May, 13 doubles, 3 triples, 4 homers, 16 RBIs, 14 walks as well. Jason Kipnis was batting .218 on the last day of April. He's batting .240 or .345 today.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, similar to what we got a little taste of this, I think, in a shorter stretch, but what Lonnie Chisenhall did around this time last year. Yeah. Remember, he went on a stretch like this. Not quite as long, but and that's not to say that Kipnis is going to fade the way that Chisenhall kind of did as that went on. But, boy, if nothing else, it points out just how much the Indians really missed Kipnis being healthy last year. My gosh, do you think that they could have used him, that would have made a difference if he'd been healthy for the majority of last year with the Indians, especially as they got down to the way they were pitching? Yeah. Oh gosh. Man. Yeah. That may have translated into 3 or 4 more wins by itself. I mean, if you had him hitting this way, and he's not going to keep this up. He's not going to be hitting 350 when it's all over, and that's okay. He can tail off a little bit. Let's not be unrealistic. Yeah. But certainly that he's back, and that is so refreshing to see, because the Indians needed somebody to exceed expectations with others really kind of coming in under the bar there. So Kipnis and a few others have really not just met expectations, but exceeded them, and they needed that.
I mean, he's hit 26 games in May. He's hitting 23 of the 26, and he leads the American.
Yeah, this is amazing,
nuts.
And that's the thing with these Indians too is you're seeing in short bursts here just dominance, and you don't see that. You don't see it in baseball in general, first of all, and you really don't see it with the Indians. But between Kluber striking out whatever it was, about 30 guys in 2 starts, and the last few, the numbers he's put up his last few starts, and how Kipnis doing that. And you're seeing some really impressive short-term performances here.
Absolutely. 50 in the last 4. Kluber finished May. Talk about Kipnis. 60 strikeouts and 6 walks. You got to love that. 10-to-1 ratio.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you just get that feeling. And you get that feeling, too, that even last night, he struck out 13, but we're to the point now, like he pitched 7 innings and he gave up 3 runs. You're like, wow, he didn't really have it last night.
Yeah.
So, like, we're to the point like where he was last year. It's like, whoa, Kluber gave up more than 1 run. What's wrong with it? And it's like, it's like he's back to being the Kluber that we know and love when he goes 7 innings, 3 runs, and we're like, yeah, he didn't really have his good stuff going, did he?
Hammy actually said that during the 7th inning yesterday when he was reading the line or whatever, and he goes, you don't have your best stuff every night. And I'm going, well, if that's the case, we'll take
that.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. But it was unbelievable,
we are
man.
so spoiled. He has spoiled us so quickly that we're going to sit here and say, yeah, well, he's 7 innings, 3 runs. Maybe he'll have the good stuff next time. Like,
I'm so mad
wow.
because I all the fussing with me and Brandenberry all season long, and yin to my yang. And this week I don't catch up with him, man. He knows he's lucky because he knows what was coming, man. Because I'm too positive, and he would have had to bring me back down. But I'm feeling good with where the Indians are, and hey, this week will be good too. You've got the 3 more in Seattle, and then Kansas City following that one up. So you got a chance to make up some ground in the division as well. A new look. Let's see, now that we've hit June, how they look when they hit Kansas City. Kansas City's cooled off a bit there too.
Yeah, and this is the time of year too. If you look at Kansas City, what they did a year ago, they really didn't get cooking until you hit June, July. Like they were not a balanced team, or they did not have a balanced season. Let's put it that way. Last year, they got hot later on. They didn't heat up at all until later on, and then really didn't get hot till the end. So the Indians are basically following that template. They have had a rough start, maybe a little rougher than Kansas City had a year ago, but there's no reason why, again, especially with that second wild card, why the Indians can't bounce back. They're up to, I think, 3 games under 500 at this point.
Yep.
There's still some ground to make up, and it remains to be seen whether that hole is too deep to catch both or either Kansas City or Detroit. But absolutely no reason why, if the Indians have indeed leveled off, that they can't be right in there for that wild card talk come September. So they're right there. For as bad as it's been, for as bad as they have been for the first 6 weeks, this is not irreconcilable. They're right there.
Yeah, they're back within 7 games in the division. They're good. I like where we're at heading into June. Hopefully, this is just the tip of the iceberg. They picked the right time to do it too, because we've only got 2 weeks of basketball left, my man. We have hit June. We have hit the NBA Finals, where many people, some weren't sure, some were, where the Cavs would end up. Cavs and Warriors for months. Most people have been looking ahead to that one, potential NBA Finals matchup. I put it down. Some people think I'm insane. The Cavaliers are going to win this series in 5 games or less. I'm telling you.
Wow.
I believe that it's much like the Atlanta Hawks, man. I just believe that the matchups are going to work out. Come on. Look at the way LeBron and the Cavaliers attacked Game 4. I mean, against the Atlanta Hawks, especially the way Dan Wismar mentioned it so much last week. The way Game 3 ended, the exhaustion, to have the killer instinct that they had at the start of Game 4, the bounce in the legs and the spring in the step of LeBron, who was exhausted for 48 hours earlier, and they just took the heart away from the Atlanta Hawks in the first 5 minutes of that basketball game. Golden State is good. They've never been in this environment before, and they've never seen what's about to hit them at the beginning of the NBA Finals, because I believe LeBron and the Cavs are a team possessed, and they know that they're the best team playing basketball.
I think that's a great point, because if you look at the end of Game 3, I think as relieved as we were that they did win the game, and I think mathematically speaking, the series was basically over at that point. We knew they may not necessarily sweep, but they're going to pull it out. I mean, you could be up 3-0. But you still had that kind of wobbly sense of, geez, now LeBron's exhausted. He tweaked his knee, like he's got all these injuries. And you just get the sense that, well, is Atlanta going to be revived by this and realize, geez, now we're back to playing our game and we can at least get another win or whatever. But they come out in Game 4, and you're right, boy, the Cavs, you could just tell in those first 5-10 minutes that there was just an energy. Like the Cavs just pounded about 6 Red Bulls. Like it just felt like they were on another level, and they came out and said no. And is that maturity. I think that we've seen that. We saw it in Chicago in Game 6 when the Cavs won that game easily. You're just seeing these things where the Cavs are not falling prey to some of these mental hiccups that other teams, whether they're experienced or not, sometimes fall prey to. So that's incredibly encouraging because, like you said, this is going to be quite a challenge. This is going to be a test for the Cavs, especially with the first two games being out in California. Are the Cavs going to be able to go out there and steal one and come home with momentum and try and take command of this series like they did in Atlanta? And what you said, and that's one of the problems that we've seen. The few times that we have seen, I guess primarily looking at the Indians, the two times they were in the World Series, and even the Cavs in 2007. I mean, in all three series, the Cleveland team was on the road for the first two games. And in 95 with the Indians and the Cavs against San Antonio in 2007, they went on the road for the first two games and quickly lost the first two games. So you're in trouble right away. And that just changed both of those series. The Cavs went on to get swept. The Indians went on to lose in 6. And that's really going to be a key. So the Cavs here, again, are following that same format. They got to go on the road, and that's where they're going to have to really dig deep, and we're going to see that maturity. If that does indeed pay off, if they can steal one, then you say, okay, this has a chance to be our series. You're coming back home with momentum, with control. Let's see if they can do that. Bring that energy that they had for Game 4, if they can carry that on after a week of rest, of much-needed rest, and see if that does make a difference.
But they have done that. They have gone on the road and won 2 games in every series on the road. They have been road warriors in these playoffs. And look at what they've done defensively. Forget the Cavs' offensive efficiency. Defensively, they have decimated the game plan of every team that they've played. Every team that they played had double-digit drops in their shooting percentages. Cavs are the best defensive team going in these playoffs. I don't believe none of those teams' plan B was good enough to beat the Cavs once they ran them off plan A. And I just believe as long as the Cavaliers do that in this series, and I believe they will, if they can run those shooters off the three-point line, I think the same thing. I don't think whatever the next best game plan for the Warriors is going to come close to being good enough to defeat the way these Cavs are playing. I see, like you said, the first 2 games, I think is going to be very fierce. It's going to be in Golden State. It's going to be there at the Oracle Arena. They go crazy, and it's a great atmosphere. And I think the Cavs fight their way to a split and figure it out much like they did in every other series and take control in Cleveland and finish it on the road. And that's why I say the Cavs in 5. Maybe I could see it, but as much as I could say maybe I see it going 6, I could go the other way too, because I just believe the Warriors, to me, remind me a lot of those Cavs teams that got to the finals and were, hey, that's great. And I know they're better than that. Don't get me wrong. They don't have Sasha Pavlovic and Larry Hughes and those guys playing. But that first time in the deal, it doesn't matter who it is. The Oklahoma City Thunder were very good a couple of years ago, man. That team was a solid championship-level team, but they met a team that had been there, done that. And say what you want, the Cavs haven't been there and done that, but the main piece on the Cavs has, and a couple of other pieces have as well, and that to me is enough to make the difference. I think Golden State is just going to go, wow, there's another level that this thing goes to when you get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I think that if there's comparisons to be made, I know a lot of people are doing that, comparing this year's Cavs team to the 2017 that made the finals. And clearly this one's better, but even comparing Golden State now, I think there's something to be said. It remains to be seen if it does play out. But I think you're right. I think there could be an inclination there to maybe compare Golden State to maybe the 2009 Cavs that were a very good team that won 60-plus games, but really they are really based on one guy. I mean, in 2009, it was very much all LeBron James. So he had a nice cast around him, don't get me wrong, as does Golden State. But really, they're going to sink or swim on that, whereas this year's Cavs, while LeBron is absolutely the heart and he needs to be LeBron, there are plenty of other weapons that have all stepped up at various times in these playoffs to lead the way. So we'll have to see how it plays out, I think, before we can make these comparisons. But, yeah, I think that you're right. In Golden State, I don't want to say untested because you don't get to the finals without being tested, but yeah, I think there is that possibility that maybe they don't have, or at least haven't had to show the grit that the Cavs have had to show. The Golden State has had a fairly easy ride through these playoffs, and maybe that's because they're just that much better than everybody we played. You know, I'm not going to ding them for that. But yeah, I think the Cavs have had, you know, just in terms of adversity and guys going down and have to adjust, and I think the Cavs are going to present some depth problems. I think the Cavs are going to be able to do different things and do different things in different ways that Golden State either hasn't seen before or isn't necessarily prepared for. The Cavs can think on their feet. I think, again, making one more comparison to maybe across the line here to the Indians, I think that both times that the Indians did make the World Series, they were the team, sort of the sexy offensive team that was all about scoring runs going up against a team with better defense and better pitching. And this time the Cavs are the ones that have the Cleveland team that has the better defense, that has the better pitching, as it were, that they're not just about the sexiness. So I think if there's anything you're going to look at, and again, to go back to one more point that you had made about the outside shooting, I think that really I would not be surprised if you looked at every single game in the series, however it plays out, that whichever team shoots a better three-point percentage is going to win each game. I just have that feeling that whoever wins that battle, whoever makes more threes, whoever shoots a higher percentage of three-point shots is going to win each game.
I agree with everything you just said, and I think that team is going to be the Cavaliers. I mean, Steph Curry at the end of the day is going to be much like we've seen personally here with LeBron and other players around the NBA, like Kevin Durant. The guy sitting there at the end of the finals going, how in the world did that happen? And maybe he'll figure it out and get back there. But I really do believe that 2009 is a great example. I've used that for the Hawks series too. I felt like the Hawks were the 2009 Cavs coming into that series. They had no idea the buzzsaw that they were getting ready to run into. And by the way, fans, when these national guys keep reminding you about how bad the Cavs rolled this terrible conference and they're going to get destroyed now, just remember that a week ago these same people were telling you that the Hawks were going to hand the Cavs their lunch and the Cavs wouldn't be able to go to Atlanta and beat this nearly 70-win juggernaut that doesn't have a superstar. Meanwhile, they went to Atlanta and ripped their heart out in about 45 seconds and put an end to that thing. And the real finals was the Chicago series. And, I mean, I even said, by the way, it's last wrap on the Hawks. Man, Boston was a tougher series, in my opinion, for the Cavaliers than Boston was as far as
it really kind of was. You're right. That's weird to think about. But at least in terms of margin of victory, I think you're right. I think the Cavs are playing better. Not to say that Atlanta is not a better team than Boston. Of course they are. But just in terms of the Cavs being hitting all cylinders and really playing well, they certainly made it look easier in the Atlanta series than in Boston. If it weren't for that overtime game 3, I think there would be absolutely no question. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the Warriors, too, if you've watched their run, which I have, I've watched, I think, all of the games in their playoff run except for one or two of them. Even though they won these series overall, they struggled against Memphis at times, and Memphis was a team that was shorthanded. They, even in the closeout against the Warriors, they practically gave that game back again. If the Rockets hadn't got out of their own way, they may still be playing in that series there. So they showed me some weaknesses that I just believe when it hits the finals. I mean, look, this is at the end of the day, LeBron James, and he is the guy that's been there on the Cavs. And when you saw the way he attacked the Hawks, he's coming the same way. And I just don't believe that these Warriors have been hit by a force that's going to come after them as motivated as what the Cavs are. They're just hungrier. It's impossible for the Warriors to be hungrier than the Cavs are, and they're going to find that out on June 4th.
Yeah, I think that tone will be set early. Not necessarily that whoever wins game 1 is going to win the series or anything like that, but I think we're going to know very early on in that very first game, just in terms of energy level, not even necessarily how things are going with who's winning or by how much or any of that, but I think we're going to know early on how the teams are going to match up, essentially. Are the Cavs going to be able to bring that same energy, or is Golden State just that much better than anything that the Cavs have faced thus far? I'm not sure that they are. I mean, yes, they're better, and I think clearly to this point, until the Cavs prove otherwise, that Golden State is the best team in the NBA. But going back to your previous point, I don't know that I was not that impressed with what we saw in the Western Conference playoffs. All we heard all year was how great the West was and how much better they are in the East, and that's true. I don't disagree with that. But I don't feel like we really saw a gauntlet that Golden State had to go through. I think that was that expectation was, oh, my God, every series is going to go the distance, and they're going to just be slugging it out. Every series is going to be epic. That's not what we saw, especially in the conference finals. My gosh, why? Houston? I don't know that. I mean, Houston, to me, I think Atlanta was a better team than Houston. I think Chicago is probably a better team than Houston. How did they get to the conference finals if the West is that good? So I think that maybe that we got a little carried away. We had a little SEC disease going on with the Western Conference there. And now things have kind of leveled off, and we've got clearly the best from each conference going against one another, probably the two best players in the NBA going against one another. It's the series the NBA wants, it's the matchup that the TV networks wanted, and certainly it's the matchup that we wanted.
Man, but does that make me crazy? I honestly think that it is what it is. Can't prove this, but I believe Houston would have been a tougher matchup in the finals, just the way the teams match up, than Golden State for the Cavaliers. I honestly do. I think it's going to play out that way too. I know. I agree. I know it's hard to argue. They're the team that beat them, but just certain teams match up differently. I honestly thought Houston would have been a much tougher finals matchup because I honestly believe that when you get past the flash of what Golden State does, the Cavaliers, what they do is going to take away what Golden State does, and then I don't know where they go from there because they're not going to switch. Like the Cavaliers, if they wanted to, can slow things down, go big, pound things down low. Golden State is not going to be able to do that with the Cavs. They're going to live and die by what got them there, and the Cavaliers take away whatever you live and die by, and they say, okay, beat us with number 2 and we'll happily lose this game, and I don't think Golden State can do that.
Which is exactly what we saw back in February when Golden State came into Cleveland. I know it's one game, and I don't want to read too much into it, but there was a lot of attention given to that game when Golden State came in, and that's exactly what the Cavs did. The Cavs made Golden State play a game that they didn't want to play. Not to say that that's going to happen every time, but that's going to be the battle. And if this series does lean that way, if the Cavs are able to control the tempo, you just saw that Steph Curry did not have a great game. He did not have a lot of good open looks. I think he was, especially as the game went on, I think that the Cavs just built a small lead and extended it, and the Cavs won comfortably and wound up really frustrating him by the time the game was over. So I think that's another good indication or a reason to feel good for the Cavs that the one time they played when both teams were as they are now, and the Cavs had gotten their act together, that was very much a game that was controlled by the Cavaliers.
For sure. The Cavs played the West in general very, very well in the second half of the season. Next Friday when we talk, Game 1 will be in the books, and we will be in the midst of the NBA Finals. By the way, the odds, I don't know if you saw them when the odds came out. They established in Vegas the Warriors as 5-12 odds, meaning you've got to bet $12 to win 5 on them. Cavaliers are 2-1 odds to win, and I think that is an amazingly whacked spread, but hey, whatever it is, man. And
just as well, I didn't want to hear this. Like I said last week, I felt really good about the Cavs going into the Atlanta series until I heard that everyone expected the Cavs to win easily, and then I started to get nervous. So, and I think a lot of that, honestly, is based on home court advantage. I think if the Cavs were to go out and take Game 1, I think those odds would basically flip-flop. I think a lot of it is based on home court because I think they see this as a mostly an even series. I think if you took home court away and said and took that factor out of it, I think it would just be about the split. I think that's about the way that people are leaning. This could go either way. There's not a clear favorite. I don't think. I would not put my money on one or the other as a clear favorite here.
And by the way, speaking of those odds, when the season started, before the Cavs made their trades in the middle of the season, when the season began, Golden State was at 25-1 odds to win the title. The Cavs were 5-2, and that was the Cavs with Dion Waiters and before they changed the roster around and all of that. So it's just funny how people change their opinions because say what you want now about, I knew the Cavs were going to roll Atlanta. After Game 1, everybody was saying, well, Atlanta just missed all their shots. They're not going to miss them all again. They're going to beat the Cavs. You watch what happens. And it wasn't until Games 3 and 4 that the world was going, damn, man, the Cavs are just whipping Atlanta. They didn't want to give it up. They didn't want to give up the GOAT. And I think it's going to be the same thing here. It'll be about Game 3 or 4 where people are going, boy, the Cavs aren't going to be denied in this one, man. I just truly believe that. I just believe that This is different. This is all business right here. These guys are not going to be denied.
And that's another reason why I think the 3-point shooting is going to be the canary in the coal mine for the Cavs, because if say Steph Curry comes out in Game 1 and struggles, or all of Golden State struggles 3-point shooting, and say, oh well, they had a bad night. Well, okay, yeah, that's now 17 times in these playoffs that the opponent has had a bad night shooting three.
Right.
You cannot just say, you can't write it off as, well, it's a bad night. Whatever. Like, no, this is a trend. This is not something that is just happening by happenstance. This is the Cavs defense. So there again, I think that it may be difficult for people to accept, because you keep waiting for Steph Curry to go off, and he may well do that on one of his crazy shooting performances. But by and large, yeah, you're looking for the Cavs. Are they shutting down? Is Golden State shooting less than what they shot in the regular season and throughout these playoffs? If that's the case early on, boy, yeah, the wind will be blowing in the Cavs' favor at that point.
Oh, can't wait. Next week, get started on Thursday. Before I let you go, though, I got to switch, man. We got to do it. It is time. It is official. It's all this build-up, all this lead-up. The book is on the shelves, man. Major League, the making of Major League, the just a bit inside look at the classic baseball movie Major League. Talk to me about it, my man, as it hits the shelves.
Oh, it's incredibly gratifying to see it finally get out. I mean, this has been over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. This has been in the works, and I know you and I have just been talking about it for probably a year or so.
Yeah.
Just shut up and bring it out already. Yeah, so it is finally out. It's incredibly satisfying to see it finally out. It's up on Amazon. You can order it, get it tomorrow. It is there. It should be in physical bookstores by next week. So it is out, and it looks great. It turns out rarely of all the books that I've done do they turn out better than what I thought. Most of the time they turn out, okay, yeah, that's about what I expected. But this one actually turned out better than I thought it would. I think everything from top to bottom, it just turned out to be a much better final product than I ever anticipated being. And I think people are really going to dig it. The early word is quite good. So I'm interested in what you think. I'm interested in some of the other influencers who have gotten early copies to get their feedback and see what they think. But yeah, the early response has been great. Everybody that Tom Berenger loved it, Corbin Burnson loved it. Everyone seems to really be digging it. So I'm really anxious to see what you think, what Sports Fix listeners think, and to get some of that feedback.
Well, I'll let you know as soon as I read it. As a matter of fact, I do believe it's upstairs waiting for you. It may have just came with my mail today. I think the holiday delayed things by a day or two here this week. Every day I'm hitting the mailbox like, come on, man. The book's not here yet, man. I've been waiting for it. Like you said, before anybody knew this was coming, I knew this was coming. And this is my favorite movie along with you. We've been talking about it for years. So I'm sitting here going, man, come on, man. But I think it may have came today, actually, with the mail. But I'm all about it.
Christmas morning has arrived.
That's what I'm saying, man. I mean, really. But I saw some of the quotes that some of the guys in the movie did, Tom Berenger and Corbin Burnson. And, I mean, this is cool. Like you said, it's one of those labor of love because it's something that you love so much, and you were able to really get into the behind the scenes of how this thing came together.
Yeah, and it really was because of that, because of knowing not only that how much I love it, but knowing how much other people love this movie, that there was really a sense of responsibility, that it wasn't just, okay, let's do a good job. Like, for myself, this is like, I need to do a good job because these people deserve this. These people will be angry if you take on this mantle and take on this project and screw it up. You know, there's a responsibility there to not let these people down. So in that way and that way only, I feel like LeBron. Like, everyone's kind of counting on me to to deliver this thing that's like, well, if somebody's going to write a book about Major League, it needs to be good because there's such a love for this movie that you need to deliver something that is on par with that excellence and that love that people have. So hopefully it lives up to that. I know it's in a way it's easy because you let the movie and the characters do the heavy lifting there because there's enough love for the movie to carry you through. But yeah, there is that sense of, okay, now that it's out, let's make sure that the people this is for, to make sure that they're happy with it.
The Making of Major League by Jonathan Knight, the foreword by Charlie Sheen. It's 255 awesome pages about an awesome movie. It's in ebook form on Amazon. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, physical bookstores all over the place. As JK said, putting it in the people's hands and hearing about it. How about we put it in somebody's hands, man? I mean, we do this all the time. How about we do this yet again, man? Let's give somebody a chance to get a copy of this and check it out for themselves, man. Does that sound like a plan?
That sounds like a plan.
How do you want to do it? How do you want to attack this, my friend? This is up to you, man. This is your call.
Well, geez, I think we've probably done Major League Trivia in the past, have we not?
Absolutely.
Maybe we should do something along those lines. Let's see.
Let's do it. Let's see. You've
what
been
can
researching
we do? Okay,
this
here it is. How about this? And there's actually a tie-in, a small tie-in, but we won't mention the tie-in until later. But what was and how we can do this? First person answer correctly, fifth person, however you want to do it. We can.
You know what? Let's do an email because I've got because we'll have the whole weekend for this thing for people to be catching up over the weekend that listen on delay. So we'll do an email. You answer it correctly, and then I'll randomly draw one of the correct answers to win a copy of the book. How's that?
Okay, there it is. Okay, so here's your question. In the movie, what was the Indians, the fictional Indians in the movie Major League, what was their final regular season record? They pointed out that if you pay attention in the movie, they don't actually call it out at the end of the movie, but if you're paying attention during the movie, you can, because they do call out their record several times at the point of the movie. You probably know this, Jerry, because this is the kind of stuff that geeks like us really kind of focus on. But what was the Indians in Major League, what was their final regular season record?
That is an awesome trivia question right there. Okay, there you go. And for those of you guys listening, you just got to email the answer to thesportsfix@AOL.com. Thesportsfix@AOL.com. Email me your answer, and I will take all the correct answers over this weekend, and then we'll draw the winner. That is an awesome question. In the movie Major League, the original Major League movie, what was the Indians' record at the end of the regular season? What was their regular season record in that movie? Email me the answer to thesportsfix@AOL.com all weekend long. You guys that listen late, don't worry. There's no deadline here. And come the end of the weekend, I'll look at all the right answers, and we'll randomly pull one out of the hat. We'll announce the winner on Monday, and we'll get you a chance to get a copy in your hands of The Making of Major League by Jonathan Knight. That is a great question there. I love it, man. That's awesome.
And that book is just studded with all kinds of minutia, of completely useless and yet entertaining little details just like that.
I cannot wait, man. It better be upstairs waiting for me because now I'm fired up, man. And if not, it'll be all weekend. I'm going to be sitting here going, come on, man. I mean, give me something.
You're going to be like a junkie waiting for the pusher man to show up. Like, I need my fix.
You know, I got to work out, and then I'm going to get it slammed. I'll have it read before the Indians' late night baseball tonight if that thing's in the mail right
Yeah,
now.
it's a perfect late night Indians companion, yes.
Absolutely. There it is, guys. Jonathan Knight, my man, thank you for sticking with us today. We've had a lot of fun to talk about. It's only going to get more fun from here, I'm telling you, for the next couple of weeks, man. And then
this is what we've earned. We, like I said, it'd be at the top. We've gone through a lot of sour stretch, not just us, but Cleveland in general. We've gone through a lot of long stretches here over these last couple of years, and these last few weeks have been great. These next few weeks are going to be even better. So just soak this in and enjoy this.
I mean, seriously, Cleveland, I know I'm putting the cart ahead of the horse, but what are you going to do in 2 weeks when you can no longer say that champions don't happen here in Cleveland? That narrative is out of the book. What is the national media going to do, JK, when they can no longer play the tragedy reel because it ends with a parade down Euclid? What are they going to do?
I would love to find out. But, first things first. So let's get there. Yeah.
Hell yeah. JK, have a good one, and we'll talk next Friday after Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Game 1. Yes, indeed, buddy. Looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
You got it. Jonathan Knight, the book is The Making of Major League. You guys know how much of a geek I am for it, and many of you guys. The Making of Major League by Jonathan Knight, our sports writer extraordinaire. How about you win a copy for yourself? Free. We'll put it in your hands this weekend. Email the answer to JK's trivia question to thesportsfix@AOL.com. What was the record in Major League of the Cleveland Indians at the end of the regular season? Answer that question to thesportsfix@AOL.com. You've got all weekend to answer, and come Monday, I will let you know who is the winner, and we're going to get you right there in your hands a copy of The Making of Major League. You guys can find out more about that great book at makingofmajorleague.com. It's available, as I said, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, bookstores everywhere, and you can win a copy right here now. Do it. Find out the answer and send it to us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. What was the Tribe's record in the regular season in the movie Major League? You can win a copy of The Making of Major League. We're going to take a break, get you some news, and flip over into Hour 2 of the Sports Fix, where Jeff Gorman from IndiansandBrowns101.com joins us to talk Indians, to talk Browns. We'll talk some Cavs, too. The Sports Fix rolls on when we come back after the news.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was
Get
terrible.
him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history? In-depth, personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. The pressure continues to mount. The latest to call for FIFA President Sepp Blatter to resign is British Prime Minister David Cameron. He said today it is unthinkable to consider that Blatter is the right person to take soccer's governing body forward. But Blatter is expected to be re-elected today in Zurich. The U.S., however, is backing Prince Ali of Jordan.
As much as football is loved around the world, and it is the most popular sport, I think the reputation of the organization is the opposite. And I think that the only way to change that, to be honest, is a change of leadership, with all respect to everyone.
9 FIFA officials were indicted 2 days ago on corruption and racketeering charges. Home ice advantage? The home team is 2-4 in the Stanley Cup Eastern Finals. Tampa Bay will visit the New York Rangers tonight in Game 7. The agent for Warriors guard Klay Thompson tells the USA Today his client did not suffer a concussion 2 nights ago when he was kneed in the head. Golden State will host Cleveland Game 1 of the NBA Finals next Thursday on ABC TV and ESPN Radio. Third round of the French Open. Today's 2-seed Maria Sharapova leads Samantha Stosur 4-3 first set.
This summer, Johnsonville reminds everyone to get their sausage family together to enjoy some plump, juicy brats around the grill. Because at Johnsonville, we don't make sausage, we make family and sausage.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
welcome back to the Sports Fix as we roll into hour 2. J-Rocc here with you, launching off the second hour of the show. My man Jeff Gorman from Indians and Browns 101.com is going to join us here in just a moment. We're going to talk all kinds of Cleveland sports. Cavs, Tribe, Browns, OTAs this week, Indians rolling. Jeff's going to do all of that with us here. Don't forget, if you just joined us or if you're just tuning in, Jonathan Knight, sportswriter extraordinaire. Great chat last segment. If you missed it, go back and listen on demand. But at the end, we're giving you a chance right now to win a copy. Are you a fan like we are? Major League, the movie. JK has spent the last 2 years plus researching the making of Major League to create The Making of Major League, the book by my man Jonathan Knight. You guys can get a copy of it. It is an incredible book here. I've seen excerpts of it. I'm dying to get my hands on my copy, and I can get you a copy this weekend. If you don't want to go to Amazon and get it, if you don't want to go to the bookstore, if you want to get it from the Sports Fix, here's your chance. Email the answer to JK's trivia question of the day to the sportsfix@AOL.com all weekend long. You can enter, and we're going to draw the winner on Monday and give you a copy of JK's book, Making of Major League. In the movie Major League, what was the Indians' record at the end of the regular season? In the movie Major League, what was the Cleveland Indians' record at the end of the regular season? Just email that answer to the sportsfix@AOL.com anytime this weekend, and we're going to draw the winner from all the correct answers, and we'll let you know on Monday who gets a copy of The Making of Major League by Jonathan Knight. All right, guys, I'm going to go to the phones. You guys got to keep the conversation going on social media. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com, because I'm going to the phones. You can't live there because that's where Jeff Gorman's hanging out. Jeff from Indians and Browns 101.com. He's here on Tuesdays and Fridays. It's been about 10 days since we've talked, so let's catch up with my man Jeff Gorman. Jeff, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing fantastic. J-Rocc, it's great to be back. I've been gone for one reason or another here and there, but it's nice to be back, and on what better occasion, to be talking about Cleveland sports. Things are looking pretty good.
That's right. We're having a hell of a Friday here heading into the weekend. It's going to be a beautiful weekend to end the month of May and start the month of June. And you know what? Speaking of ending and starting, before we even go off into some virgin territory here, why don't we kind of keep rolling, you and I, where we were hanging out just a few moments ago with JK before we talk Tribe and Browns and get into the meat of that. Cavs sitting here 1 week from yesterday, the beginning of the NBA Finals. How are you feeling about the Cavs and the Warriors here? What's your thoughts heading into this thing?
I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. I mean, it's easy to be a little intimidated considering how well Golden State has done all year long, how difficult, how tough they are to beat, especially at their place. And, but the thing is, the Cavs, they've really knocked down everything that's come up against them. They've had some adversity. They've had a lot of physical problems, and just the way that they've handled that, and the way that they've incorporated everybody into the team and gotten really a lot of contributions, from role players, from guys who are just kind of really stepping up. And, it's like nothing. It's amazing what they were able to do, without Kyrie Irving these last few games. I mean, you talk about having a big three, we were down to a big two, and then it was just a big one, but it wasn't just all relying on LeBron. And it was just so nice to see everybody come around together. And it just seems like we're in a position where, hopefully Irving will be ready to go. But, you got everybody else. Everybody's feeling confident. They're all playing together. They all know that they're contributing. And I'm sure that LeBron looks at everybody around him and he says, these guys, I trust these guys to go to war with me and take me to a championship.
I'm with you. And you know what? I forgot to ask this question to JK, but I asked it earlier in the week. Last night, I was with a group of people, and I asked this question, and it was so funny because I instantly got silence and everybody going, oh, good question. And I got 3 different answers from 3 different people. I said, okay, take LeBron James out. LeBron didn't play. Look at you can't say him. Who was the MVP of the Hawks series for the Cavs? And instantly people go, oh, that's a good question, man. And one guy's like, well, J.R. Smith. Another guy's like, no, man, I got to say Thompson. Somebody else was like, well, what about Dellavedova? I'm like, exactly. That's my point. Don't make me throw out Schumpert, and don't make me throw out, you get contributions from everybody across the board. And but that's a hard question to answer, because that's what you mean. Yes, of course, as JK said just a little bit ago, LeBron is the one that gets all the attention, and that's obviously the big piece, but every other one around it stepped up, and that was a big piece in why the Cavaliers did what they did, and the confidence that they have in themselves. It's different than any other Cavs team that I've seen previously. I mean, I've seen teams be cocky and confident and all of that, but they get it knocked out. This team, it doesn't matter. You go on a run, you can have this team down double digits. Every time, not every once in a while. They take a timeout, they huddle up, they get it together, they come out, and they erase deficits, and they put themselves right back where they were before they slipped up. This Cavaliers team has an ability to focus and take their game to a level that you can't, and that's what Golden State's fixing to find out, man.
And what really was mind-boggling to me was on Sunday night how LeBron missed his first 10 shots and still ended up with 37 points. And not only that, after missing those 10 shots, the team was not in an insurmountable hole. They were right in there. Most players, their main guy, their best player goes completely ice cold, and you're down by at least 10 or 12 points, but not in this case.
Yes, exactly what you said. I mean, end of the quarter there, and you're like, we're down, was it 3 or whatever? And you're going, okay, LeBron just went 0 for 10 to start the quarter. We're shooting whatever our percentage was, and we're down 3 points. I'll take that. The Cavs are going to win this game. That right there, when Atlanta was not up, that was their last gasp. It wasn't game 4. It was game 3 was their, this is our season, and we're going to throw everything we can do at the Cavaliers and fight. And when they did not have a bigger lead than that at the end of that, you knew that they were done, because the Cavs just handed you the biggest opportunity in the world, and you didn't take advantage of it. You just knew that they were going to regret that later. They should have been up double digits on the Cavs at that point, and the fact that you were getting beat by everybody else on the Cavs, you were done before it even started.
Right, and it's something that, you don't really very often see, and that's one of the reasons why, LeBron's going to have that kind of confidence, because he knows that, of course, he's going to have confidence in himself to keep putting up those shots. In fact, I believe he took more shots in that game than he ever had in his career. So in a way, he was carrying a lot of the burden on himself. But, the way that guys, like you said, guys like Schumpert and J.R. Smith and Dellavedova were able to come through just enough at the right times for when he was not able to get the job done. It's a situation where you're going into really kind of the great unknown when you're dealing with the Warriors, because, of course, you only end up playing them, twice a year. And, so you're not really super familiar with them. And you go, oh, wow, they got Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Bogut, and they really have everything going for them. And, because I know you're a little bit doubtful of them, considering, because you've seen that they weren't really very playoff tested, and they weren't. But, they were able to kind of make their way through. They didn't have really the toughest test all the way through. But, this is a situation where, LeBron's going to come in there and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to be facing, but I really have to feel like he's not going to be afraid that even when some bumps come up in the road, that his team will be able to adjust, because we saw how much they were able to bounce back and adjust when they had some really hard knocks, in many cases literally, against the Celtics and the Bulls.
I agree, and I'm telling you, fans, this is not cocky or anything. This is two great teams playing, but in about a week and a half, fans and players alike in California are going to be sitting there with that feeling. The Cavs know it, because we had it in 2009. We had it in even a little less in 2007, because that was a tested championship level team coming in against a team with LeBron and a bunch of guys. But that feeling that you have when you're just dominating the world, and a week and a half later you're out of a series before you even know what happened, and you go, how did that happen? That is going to be the Golden State Warriors in about 5 games. I'm telling you, I'm not saying that to be cocky. This is going to be the first time that they're going to get punched in the mouth and not be able to get back off the mat, and they'll learn from it, and maybe they'll get better. But a week and a half or so from now, Golden State fans and players alike are going to be sitting there going, what just happened? Because they're not even prepared for what the freight train that's about to hit them.
Yeah, I know they're looking at the Cavaliers and, they know who they have to watch out for, but they don't really see all these sort of secret weapons that have been coming up throughout the playoffs. And I don't see them going away. The secret is out. I don't see those guys, slacking off or shrinking away from the moment. I think that if anything, these guys are gaining confidence and they're ready to go to war and if you contribute 6, 8, 10 points, throughout the game and just really hit the Warriors with everything from all different angles. And again, it's unfortunate you don't have Kevin Love with his, specific skill set and the way that he can stretch out a defense and, just really create a lot of matchup problems. But, everybody else has proven that they can, pick up the slack. And I don't see that stopping. I think it's going to be a little tougher maybe than you think. I wouldn't be surprised if it went 6 or 7 games, but I think the Cavs are going to do it. I would have to stay in 6.
Let me jump in right here real quick. I want to clarify because I was just going to say this anyway with right before you said that. Don't confuse Cavs in 5 with this is an easy series and the Cavs are going to blow out the Warriors in every game. I'm not calling for blowouts. I'm just saying it doesn't matter if you 1, 2 point victory. These are going to be hard-fought games, especially the first 2. I believe the first 2 are just going to be true get at it and coming down to the end type of things because that atmosphere is going to be great. But I just believe that when you get down into the final stretches, into those key moments of games, I think the Cavs will pull away and win it. I mean, now you may come away and go, that was the hardest fought 5-game series I've ever seen. Now that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying Cavs in 5 does not mean Cavs wipe the floor with the Golden State Warriors. They're just good enough to beat them 4 out of 5 games here coming up to start. That's what I mean. It's definitely not going to be a bunch of 15, 20-point Cavs wins, although I do see one blowout there, much like what happened with Atlanta. I really see it playing the way the Hawks and the Bulls, both of those series played out. A little tougher at the beginning, although not so much the Hawks as the Bulls, but as each game went on, you truly got the feeling that the Cavs were figuring out their opponent more and more, not just by every game, but weren't you getting that feeling by every quarter that went by? They were literally figuring out their opponent as they go and adapting to what the other team does and taking it away and slowly strangling that team out. That's the way I see this series playing out. Very high scoring, perhaps first game back and forth, and little by little, the Cavs, LeBron, David Blatt, figuring out how to choke down that offensive efficiency for the Warriors little by little, and they come away with the series. But I just want to make sure, just because I'm saying Cavs in 5, that does not mean the same as Cavs wiping the floor with these guys.
Right, but I do see what you're saying. I think that by the end of the series, they certainly won't look as formidable as they did at the beginning of the series. Just like the Hawks. The Hawks really didn't look that great by the end of that series.
I mean, do you agree? And if not, please say that. You don't have to agree with me. But I really did feel watching the Cavs, every game and every stretch of key, from quarter to quarter and from timeout to timeout, you really feel the Cavs learning. They're like watching watching a predator that studies its opponent and learns and little by little they get better and better and better. And that's the way I felt all playoffs watching the Cavs is, whatever you did in game 1, you weren't getting away with that in game 2. And then whatever you added there, they adapted again. They're very much adaptable to what you do. And I thought, man, they got better with every game at taking away what you want to do. And that's the way I see this series playing out too.
I wouldn't doubt that because, it just seems like mentally this team is very strong and, they really don't get rattled. I mean, we were all a little bit rattled. I remember we talked after they lost game 1 against the Bulls, but, they really settled things down and, ended up not even going the full distance against the Bulls. And it's going to be really interesting to see how both these teams adjust to each other by the time we get to, game 3 or game 4. And that's really going to be a test of the coaches to see, what they've learned from those first 2 games once it really gets down toward the end.
Think about it, guys. The Cavs were down 2-1 at one point to the Chicago Bulls. Haven't lost a game since, and haven't even been competitive, really, except for the overtime game. You know, but they were down. Just remember, a month ago, 3 weeks ago, the national media was going, "Oh, this is it for the Cavs now. They've run into this buzzsaw Chicago Bulls team, and boy, they're in trouble now." And they haven't lost a game since, as they sit now, heading into the finals. We can talk more about this next week, my man, but I'm excited, getting ready to start the finals. In the meantime, where do you want to go right now, man? You want to talk a little Indians here? You want to go in that direction, man, as the Tribe has now got another little winning streak going here as they bounce back after a tough couple of days there. You and I basically, since we talked last, the Indians have really kind of emerged from the depths of where they were over the last couple of weeks here. As we saw, they went on that 6-game run, then they had a little stumble. They've picked up a couple here now, beginning this series with Seattle. Talk to me about the last 10 days or so for the Tribe from your perspective, Jeff.
Well, that's really what they needed. They really needed to get on a good run because you could tell that, there were some things that were working out. It's not like the entire team was in the doldrums. Kluber would come out, he'd strike out 12 guys, but then he'd lose. The Indians would get some hitting going. It's not like everybody's been in a slump. They have some really good hitting performances, but they just couldn't really put everything together. And that's what they needed to do, was get that 6-game winning streak, just boost them up in the standings a little bit, just sort of, backtrack on that really bad one-loss record so you get a little bit closer to, the surface. And, now I think, one thing I was mentioning was that I think that once Corey Kluber broke through and just got that first win, he had some hard luck losses, and then he had some losses where he just really didn't look very good. And, of course, I think the turning point was that huge 18 strikeout performance, and he finally, broke through, got that first win, and he's been just completely dialed in ever since. And what that does is it sets such a good example for the rest of the rotation. I mean, when Kluber's got it going on, the other starting pitchers are watching him, following his lead, and then you have a situation where Bauer's looking very good. We're going to see him tonight. You got Salazar at 5-1, which is really amazing. So, I mean, even though Carrasco hasn't really been as great as we were hoping, and of course the fifth starter spot has been something of a black hole. But,
I disagree about Carrasco.
You're going to say something? What?
No, go ahead. I was just going to say I disagree about Carrasco. I think Carrasco has definitely been. I mean, just his win-loss record. Don't go by that, man. He's done a great job. He's had a couple of bullpen saving performances here. I think Carlos Carrasco is really beginning to put it all together. But that's just me. Go ahead. I wasn't meaning to interrupt you there.
Okay. Well, hopefully, if he's got things going on as well, then you have what we were hoping for at the beginning of the season, where you've got, your really strong starting rotation that's going to lead this team. Of course, TJ House kind of fell apart, but, he's been starting to put it back together a little bit down in Columbus. So it's going to be interesting to see if he, gets another chance to get that number 5 spot, especially, from a lefty standpoint. So, that's really, I think, where it starts is, the sort of the emergence of Kluber, the other starting pitcher is doing well. And so you get the feeling that even though the Indians are still a few games under 500, I was really hoping they could make it to 500 by the end of the month. And I guess technically they could if they, sweep the Mariners.
Absolutely.
I think they're definitely on the right track. They still got a long way to go because there's, 3 good teams ahead of them now. But I think that they're starting to slowly put it together, but they're going to really have to continue to play very good, consistent baseball because they still have a lot of digging out left to do.
I agree with you. As the Indians looking for their 5th consecutive road victory tonight, Trevor Bauer's looking for his 3rd straight win. He had that rough stretch at the beginning of the season. Not a stretch, but he had 2 tough outings. Other than that, all season long, he's been lights out. As you mentioned, 4-1, but his last 3 starts really dialed in. Just 11 runs allowed, 1.21 ERA in his last 3 starts. He's pitched into the 8th inning in his last 3. Which is really, when we talk about the bullpen still trying to find its way for the Indians here, has been key. And that's what I meant about Carrasco. We saw that the other day. He pitched when the Indians jumped out there with that 8-run 3rd inning, and Carrasco did a good job. Some pitchers, and Terry Francona, if you guys were listening to the pregame yesterday, he was talking with Hammy a little bit about that, about how in that situation, a lot of times pitchers will not they'll lose the focus, and you'll end up having to go to the bullpen because you've got that big double-digit lead, and it's easy. And instead, Carrasco knew what he had to do. He stayed focused because he knew that if you monkey around, now you've got to dip into the bullpen. Instead, he was able to go a little deeper there. He did that earlier, even that game that the Indians lost, but he went the complete game, saved the bullpen again. With all the struggles of the bullpen to get itself together, those things are important. But, yeah, it all comes and goes with the starting pitching, as you mentioned there. And Bauer tonight, it'll be interesting, especially because last season I noticed he was actually 0-2 with a 6.7 ERA, something like that, against the Mariners. So hoping that he can come out there and play better tonight. But the Indians in general, as we said, you look at I think they hate to see the month of May flip away on the calendar between what Corey Kluber did and what Jason Kipnis did. And Brandon Moss, you can't stop mentioning him as well. He leads the Indians in home runs. He's definitely given you what you hoped for when you picked him up in the offseason. So heading into the month of June, as you said, whether they're exactly 500 or not, it depends on how the next 3 games go, but they're close enough to where we talked a month ago. All of us that do the show here have all basically pointed to the beginning of June and said if they can get there, be there, get things together, start kind of a reboot to the season, as I termed it, and that's right about where they've got themselves here as we head into the final weekend of the month of May.
Right. It was very important for just these last 3 weeks to just start playing more consistent baseball, because if you got to this point, the beginning of June, and you're still 10 games under 500, it's pretty safe to say that it's not going to happen. So the fact that they're sort of finally coming up for air, I mean, we talked about Washington over in the National League. They've been able to dig themselves out a little bit better than the Indians have. They started off pretty much at the bottom, and now they're actually already in first place. So, they just sort of weathered the storm, and you hope that the Indians, with the talent that they have, are able to continue to do that. It's sort of strange to be looking up at the Twins. Everybody's looking up at the Twins since they went on a 5-game run. They're actually in first place, but, I don't think any of us really see that lasting. I think it's going to come down to the Royals and the Tigers. And the one thing that I think that I've mentioned before, and I think I'll probably keep mentioning, is that the way this team is built and the way this season has gone, we don't necessarily have to win the division. It would be great. It would be fun. But I think this is a team that needs to really take the long, consistent haul and just shoot for that last wild card spot. That's the goal we have to make, because, once any team can make it into the playoffs, good things can happen. So, I don't think that we have to climb the insurmountable mountain if the first place team is maybe 5-8 games ahead. If we can somehow sneak into the playoffs by hook or by crook, who knows? Maybe it will happen. But again, it's still a long ways to go, and it's nice to see that, like you mentioned, Brandon Moss, not the greatest batting average, but that's what we needed from last year, an addition of some power, and that's exactly what he's given to us.
Absolutely, Jeff. And, I'll tell you what, too. A couple of different things here looking at the Indians that I was thinking, and I just completely lost my train of thought with where I was going with that one. But as the Indians head into the month of June here, wow, I just lost it again. All right, well, obviously then what I was about to say wasn't important because it completely went away from me. Oh, a couple of things that I wanted to say. I got it. I'm sorry. I had a couple of messages coming in, and they threw me off my train of thought there, guys. This is live radio. One prediction that I want to make for beginning the month of June, and we'll see how this plays out next week as it happens, but I've got a feeling that Carlos Santana is going to go on a little bit of a run here when we come back. A lot of people, and we have mentioned it, he went on a slump there in the last couple of weeks when he was moved up to number 2. But how many people, and ourselves included, think about it now that he's out in paternity leave for the weekend here. Think about it. That does coincide with the last couple weeks before his wife gives birth. And I'm just saying, if you've ever been in that situation, there can be some distractions and some things on your mind. So, hey, I'm serious. I mean, that's an important time in your life. It's easy to look at people as robots because they make all this money, but, that's an important time in people's lives. And I'm just saying, hey, look, that slump kind of coincided with the last couple of weeks before the child is born here, and he was just starting to maybe, get going a little bit right before that. So I'm wondering if maybe the weekend off here, and then you come back, your mind is clear, the team's playing better, that weight is off of your shoulders. I got a funny feeling that next week Carlos Santana is going to get back to doing what he does with that good eye on the ball, drawing some walks and doing well. Just let's see what happens. But I'm predicting a hot start to the month of June for Carlos Santana next week when the Indians start playing some more ball. We'll see about that. And here's something else I'm going to throw out there. I think that it cannot be mentioned enough. And by the way, what a classy thing, too, with the Indians and Mike Aviles, the way they're rallying around him and guys shaving their heads in solidarity. I'm going to say this now, not to be cliche or sporty or anything like that. Don't underestimate the what's the word I'm looking for? The X factor.
Camaraderie?
The family factor, the X factor that comes when real life reaches its hands into the fake sports world. And you know what I mean by that. I mean, there's a difference between sports and reality. And Mike Aviles is dead deep in the middle of reality going on, and he's trying to distract himself with sports. But the way the Indians come together around that could be bigger than just X's and O's and things on the baseball field. I know some people don't believe that stuff happens, but it does. And I got a feeling that that's just something else here heading into the month. Something is changing about the Indian season. I can kind of feel it. And I know some of it is just the ebb and flow of the season. But don't underestimate that. That's something that can pull a team together. And perhaps all of these things coming together at the right time. That situation, Gomes coming back, the pitching getting itself really dialed in. All of these different things, they all contribute to perhaps the uptick. But don't underestimate the camaraderie, as you said, factor of Mike Aviles and the way the team is pulling together around him, pulling this whole thing together for the next run through the summer. I don't know. That's just me throwing that out there, but I'm getting a feeling that they're really starting to turn the tide on this season, but they still have a whole lot of work left to do. But what do you think about that? I mean, things like that, smaller things, have bolstered teams together than something as truly heart-wrenching as that.
Right, and another person who might be, and I actually wrote about this on Indians 101, is maybe Nick Swisher. I mean, he hasn't really done it great from a statistical standpoint, but I think just his presence in the clubhouse kind of coincided with this team starting to turn things around. Yes. And, another thing is just the fact that he goes back to his role and sort of allows other people to get back to their roles. And we were saying, David Murphy had better start to pick it up because, Swisher's back and he's not going to have much. And that's exactly what he's done. I mean, Murphy has really been hitting the ball well. I don't know why it took him so long, but he finally did. So now you've got Rayburn and Murphy both hitting over 300 and, Swisher holding down his spot too. And I'd like to think that because, Kipnis is not going to hit like a crazy person, forever. So we're going to need people like Santana, as you mentioned, when he comes back. And, Gomes will hopefully start to pick it up, maybe Swisher a little bit. Other people are going to have to sort of step up to fill the gap, if Kipnis cools off a little bit. And then, of course, there's always the chance that Brantley will start hitting like crazy the way he did last year.
For sure, Michael Bourne, he has shown some signs here and there of getting things together. Swisher, Rayburn, kind of platooning combo of those guys over there. But Bourne, by the way, quietly, he's got his average back over the 250 mark. I think he's 253 or so coming out of yesterday's game as he's 1 for 2 again yesterday. Drew a walk. He's getting himself on base. It's still not the greatest, but his on-base percentage is up near 330, which is better than it was. The batting average up a little bit there. I mean, again, it's better. I mean, there's only two ways you can go when things are going bad, better or worse. And at least it's starting to go in the better direction for him, as you said. If Chisenhall can pull himself together, I mean, but hey, for now, Aviles, obviously you don't want Aviles to become your full-time third baseman. He's too valuable in his ability of going all over the place. But there's a luxury that the Tribe has without having to pull a trigger from down below for somebody perhaps who's not ready or whatnot, is that you do have Aviles there able to step in, because Chisenhall is really one of the guys still really down in the muck and the mire offensively. He's batting about 215. Ramirez too, although starting in the last 10 days. Talk about, you mentioned Murphy and being woke up a little bit like, hey, I better get going because all of a sudden there's some competition here. Same thing can be said for Ramirez, because just at the point that you, me, and everybody else was saying, well, he's really, if Lindor was playing any better, he'd have kicked that door open already. Ramirez must have been listening, because in the last, 10 days or so, coinciding with this good run for the Indians, you've had much stronger play, more hustle offensively and defensively from Ramirez as well. Everybody individually has begun to step up a little bit, and guess what? That adds up to a much better total than what you were having at one point in the season.
Right, and I like what with Ramirez and Bourne starting to, get it together at the bottom of the lineup, and then it goes right to number one with Kipnis.
Yes.
So he's been able to, hit the ball with some guys on base, and I think that I really like the way their lineup looks right now as far as the batting order. I hope that they don't mess with that. Even though Santana hasn't been doing great, I think he's so well suited for that number 2 spot. And if you remember last year, when he was so bad the first 2 months of the season, in June is when Santana started to put it together, not just with getting on base, but with power. It's strange that he ended up with more than 20 home runs. So maybe Santana, like you said, might be, one of the big, linchpins for this team to keep going, because, we talk about how the starting pitching is coming back together, but the hitting is going to have to keep it up in order to keep rising up and maybe getting into having a winning record.
Yep, and I just think back a month ago at the beginning of this month when we would go. I've got yesterday's starting lineup here in front of me, and I think back a month ago doing this same little thing that I did here, pulling it up. You go down and it was pitiful. It was a bunch of 220s and 210s, and 250 was the best guy. You go down now and things are much more healthy and robust. 345, 288, 316, 306, and then of course you get to the bottom of the lineup. That's where you mentioned whether it's Swisher, Moss, Ramirez, Bourne, getting those guys going. That's the key, because the Indians now have a 100% legitimate top half of the lineup here. You start getting 2 or 3 of them bottom spots going, and all of a sudden the train keeps moving, one man to the next, and so on. And hey, Gomes, in the limited action so far, really hasn't got himself untracked yet. So there's a lot of things. And by the way, you said, hopefully I'm right about Santana. Do you think I may be? I know that, he struggled a bit, but maybe I'm just looking for excuses for guys, but I don't think so. I wonder if, come on, that's a rather consistent guy, and I think the timing is not a coincidence that over the last few weeks of your wife's labor, you struggle a bit at the plate, and I look for him with that weight off of his shoulder as a human and as a parent, and with the Indians playing better, so that baseball weight is off your shoulder a bit as a team. I think Santana comes back and gets on a little bit of a tear to start the month of June.
I think you're right, because the one thing that, we talk about how we can relate to that, but he's got it more difficult because he can't be there. He's got to be traveling around the country, so that really had to be weighing heavily on his mind. And, now he can get focused on that and then hopefully come back, like you said, really rejuvenated and refreshed, and to help this team keep going in the month of June. It's just nice to be able to talk about the fact that the Indians are in somewhat of a position to get things going, because this would be a really depressing conversation if they were 15 games below 500.
Oh, absolutely, especially in about 2 weeks when the shade of the NBA playoffs is over, that's for sure. Jeff Gorman from IndiansandBrowns101.com joining us here on the Sports Fix, doing the thing. We've been talking Cavs, we've been talking Tribe. Let's switch over one more time. The Browns have actually been in action this week as they continued with another set of OTAs. And, this is one that, isn't the fanciest one to talk about, yet a lot of important work is done behind the scenes, because this is the week where the Browns install their offense and their defense and really start to put the bulk of their stuff in as far as the playbook. So a lot of important structural stuff is done that doesn't make the headlines that happened this week.
Right, with the new offensive coordinator, John DeFilippo, it's like everybody's going right back to the beginning of the drawing board, and it's not just because you have a new offensive coordinator. You've got just a lot of new players in there, with Josh McCown, and then, Dwayne Bowe and Brian Hartline. And the good thing is, these guys are, established veterans, and, they've been through this a few times. And, hopefully they'll start to be able to pick things up and maybe lead some of their younger peers, so that, it's not too difficult of a process, so that, everybody can kind of get on the same page. And, of course, you look at Manziel, and you have to hope that, his head is a lot clearer now. And you also have to – it's going to be interesting to see, just
what kind of an offense is put together and whether it can really work with both of them. Because you have like a 35-year-old quarterback, and then, of course, you have the very mobile Manziel. And you have to hope that if you have to go back and forth, which you almost always have to do at some point during the NFL season, if you know, you won't have to completely reinvent the wheel if you have to put Manziel in there. Hopefully, you know, you can run the plays that you've been practicing, you know, with Manziel in there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, too. Mike Pettin, I listened to his press conferences this week, talked about the sloppiness involved in establishing the offense this week, which is, of course, going to come, especially because you're really changing things even from what guys did. Although I do, and I'm just going to, you know, this is something that we don't really need to get into at the end of May, but something we'll talk about more when we get to training camp. But, you know, for all the talk of the gradual shift and how, you know, John DeFilippo was going to really actively go out of his way to translate as many things from last year, and he was going to change more on his end than the things he was going to make the players change. That's not exactly the way it translated across, at least with the way Mike Pettin described the changes. Perhaps a bit more deep-seated changes to the offense coming than what they perhaps anticipated at the beginning of the offseason. And really, that could be bad if you're looking offensively for the Browns because, you know, whatever you think of the talent level at its peak, whatever you think it is, I'm not even going to debate that right now, the more change, the more adjustment needed there. And I was thinking that, you know, the way they talked when DeFilippo came on, they were going to try to minimize the adjustment on the part of the players. But it just seems like perhaps it's a bit more extensive of a change. And again, we don't know what that is until we see it full-blown in training camp. But I think that'll be something interesting to keep an eye on, you know, as the season goes forward and heads towards training camp and all of that stuff. Real quick, before we even go any further in that, a lot of guys, updates injury-wise, stuff like that, guys that did and didn't do stuff. I know a lot of people talk about Phil Taylor and his being able to come back. He was out there. That was a question mark. Would he be able to be there? But he was there, even though he was slightly limited after the surgery. It was good to see because this is a camp where you really get an idea who shows up. And what I mean is whether they're going to be able to go at the start of training camp, which is really just about 6-8 weeks away, something like that. If guys are not ready to go here, a lot of times, no matter what they tell you, they will not be ready to go full blow at the start of training camp. And if guys aren't ready to go at the start of camp, they aren't ready to go at the start of the season, no matter what the media tells you. But Mingo, he was a slow go here. And that, I'll tell you what, talk about, we mentioned Murphy, and you did about lighting a fire and you start to worry. Mingo had better be one of those guys this year because these Browns didn't draft him, and they did draft some guys that they're willing to give his reps to. And Armani Bryant's one of them that is going to be pushing for some of those pass rushing steps there as Mingo is definitely going to be pushed. He's going to be pushed by him, by the draft picks. There's a lot of different places there, and that's interesting. But he was slow, but was there learning the changes. Armani Bryant was also walking through, didn't do any team stuff. He's still coming back from the ACL, but he did do some of the other stuff. With the draft picks, Vince Mailey, of course, is the one that I think is the biggest disappointment to the Browns because he had to have the surgery. Most likely he'll not be all go at the start of camp. And rookie wide receivers, if they're not ready to go on day one of camp, they're going to give you trouble being much more than special teams guys throughout the season. Some of the other ones, Danny Shelton finishing up, getting his degree, which I have no problem with that. Plus, a lot of the guys talk about his intelligence level anyway when it comes to picking up the defense. But you do hate to see, no matter how smart he is, you hate to see your first-round draft pick miss the initial installs. But how can you complain about a cat that's finishing up what is, to him, the most important thing, which is the work he put in at his college and at the University of Washington. So you can't really complain about that. And, of course, Tayshaun Gibson not practicing because he wants to get paid, although he is working out on his own, as they say, and he sits unsigned.
Yeah, that's a little bit too bad because, the Browns pretty much have him over a barrel as far as, from a contract negotiation standpoint. I don't think he really has a whole lot of leverage. So it would have been nice to see him, well, of course, it's easy for me to say. It's not $1 million difference here to me. It's just his money, so right. I can see why he's sort of upset. But Yeah, really for me to say. But, it would be nice if he could, I'm sure he's hoping that at least they can come up with some kind of middle ground. But it'd be nice to get that secondary together, because this is really going to be a great secondary. With 3 Pro Bowlers, I mean, when you look at a team like the Browns and, they've got strengths, they've got weaknesses, and this is a team that's really going to have to use its strengths to bolster up its weaknesses, and especially with the secondary leading that defense. And it's going to be really, I think the real key this year is going to be see if the rest of the defense can really help the secondary out and contribute. Like you mentioned, Barkevious Mingo, this would really be the time for him to, hopefully be 100% healthy and give us what we were really hoping to see out of him as far as pressuring the quarterback. Because he could cause 2 or 3 more interceptions if he can just, really get after the quarterback. And then, of course, building up the defensive line against the run, which is going to be really of tantamount importance. So, really, putting everything together, and again, hopefully, they can work things out with Gibson, and so he can get in there because he really was a fantastic player last year, and I'd love to see him, keep that up and give us, at least 3 or 4 more years of that kind of production.
And you know what's awesome as we talk about this? JK and I were kind of, at the beginning of the show talking about the last 4 years of stuff. But, man, Jeff, go back a year from now, man, or a year back from here, and think about it. And it's so good to be able to give a few minutes of conversation to something like this rather than at this point last year. It was, because the Cavs were where they were, and, the Indians were still early in the season, and there was all the Manziel drama and all that talking and just all the focus. And it feels so much better to be where things are now because everything's kind of in its proper place at this time of the year. Like when you're at the end of May and the beginning of June, you want to be talking about things in this order. The basketball team in the playoffs, because it's basketball playoff time. You want to be having some good conversations about the quarter pole of the baseball season, and you want to be having periphery conversations, perhaps that they're, drafting some guys and we're getting ready for training camp, but that should be on the periphery of the conversation. And for so many years, it ends up getting flipped around. So glad that the sports universe is cooperating with us for once. And I can tell you this, basketball-wise, they're going to continue to cooperate with us for a while here. We'll be talking Cavs later in the season here for the next couple of years to come. This is only the tip of the iceberg, but it feels good. Like the world has kind of aligned itself right because there's not 800 goofballs lined up outside Berea trying to figure out how many, bootlegs Johnny Manziel ran in shorts today or whatever. There's a much longer line to see what the Cavs are doing, and then the Tribe, and hey, there's the Browns over there, too. Okay, guys, just keep doing it. We'll check in with you in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's right. If you really only have the Browns to talk about at this point, that means things are not going well, baseball and basketball-wise. So, yes, it is very refreshing to have things, as you mentioned, in the proper place.
And one thing I did want to throw up, though, real quick, that I did want to mention is when we brought up Gibson a few minutes ago. For everybody, all of us, we have these Cavs conversations like crazy. But, hey, spend the money and pay the guys, et cetera, and so forth. We're spending Dan Gilbert's money. I'm going to go ahead and spend just a little bit of Jimmy Haslam's money real quick because he's got enough of it. I don't know why they haven't paid Tayshaun Gibson yet, but does anybody realize that the Browns are $25 million under the salary cap right now? Bro, I mean, seriously, man, just pay that man his money and send him to camp. I mean, sometimes the things just are mind-boggling, but the good thing is that nobody cares right now. Other than that, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anything else here coming out of this week, man, that you want to get into?
Hey, this is actually just to finish what you're saying. If I was Tayshaun Gibson's agent, I would walk in with a piece of paper that says the Browns did not win a game after Gibson was hurt. Drop the pencil, and that's it. And walk out of the room.
Drop the mic and walk out. Go, here's the Browns record when my client played. Here's how many games that they won afterwards. There's nothing written on the paper. Now you can fill it in with my contract and send me home. And, of course, it's much more than that. But that's a great one. I wish you were my agent. You need to go mic drop for me, man. Go get me paid, Jeff Gorman, my man here. By the way, the last thing quickly about the Browns that I did want to mention while I had you, catching up on some things, is that the Browns, I guess some of the fans got a little ticked off. Hey, at least they didn't move training camp, but the brown and orange scrimmage did get moved. Last year they did it at InfoCision in Akron. This year they're going to move it down to the Shoe, Ohio Stadium. The 105,000-seat Ohio Stadium will host the Browns scrimmage. Be interesting to see how many fans they draw. It always did well here at the stadium when they did it, but I'm not like some of these guys. I could care less, man. Go ahead. I actually think that is the right thing that you take around the state if you want to tour it. Go ahead and take the inter squad scrimmage around, because there's plenty of local opportunities. I wasn't a big fan of taking training camp out of town, but I think that is a great idea. Take that down to Columbus. There's a truckload of Browns fans down there, and I don't have a problem with that.
And when you think about it, Columbus is always the battleground between being a Browns fan and being a Bengals fan. So the more you can imbue them with some Browns, hype and get everybody down there, maybe we can sell, a few more Browns jerseys than Bengals jerseys down there. And, you can sell some tickets, too. It's only a couple hours to come up to the stadium. And so that's overall a really good idea. But you talked about moving training camp. The one thing you have to wonder is, are they going to actually move training camp to Columbus the following year? Because they're saying that that's a possibility, that they're talking about, do they stay in Berea or do they move all of camp to Columbus? I kind of really hope that doesn't happen, because it'd be very hard for, all of us local Cleveland fans to get up there to check out training camp. But so I don't know. I really hope that doesn't happen, but they're kind of talking about it.
Yeah, they were talking stronger 2 years ago, and then the Manziel train slowed down, and they kind of slowed it down a little bit. I think this is a test to see the market and how it's going to be, but I don't think they're going to move camp for the simple fact that there's a lot. They get a lot of tax breaks. There's a lot of businesses. There's a lot of things tied into Berea there. A lot of people make their money during that time of the season there and all of that. But anyways, I think moving the scrimmage around, that's a good thing to do. Jeff Gorman, I lost him. Hopefully he calls back here. There we go. Jeff Gorman, are you back with me, my friend? Jeff.
There you are.
There we go. I don't know what happened. You're back. But anyways, I was just saying that I don't anticipate they move the whole camp, because I think they realize that there's a lot of things tied into Berea there that they may not want to do. I think this may be the happy medium of what they do in moving the scrimmage around. And I had some fans get mad at me. Last thing I'm going to say about it, I had some fans not get mad at me, but send me some messages when it came out yesterday or whatever, and I'm like, really? Okay, let me just ask you one question. Does it hurt you that bad not to see the brown jerseys practice against the orange jerseys? I mean, because that's what they did. That's what they did. That's all they moved was that. They did, come on, they're not selling you out.
Right.
Anyways, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I think some people just like to get mad about anything, and I got way better things to get mad about. I'd much rather get mad about crappy play on the field than where you're going to go hold a practice that most people don't go to begin with. But anyways, Jeff Gorman, IndiansandBrowns101.com. Man, great conversation. We're talking some Cavs, talking some Indians. We even threw in a little bit of Browns. Next week, it's going to get crazy, Jeff. When you come back, we'll have the end of the Seattle series here for you and I to talk about early. We'll be closing in on Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Man, God, I cannot wait. The next few weeks are going to be a ton of fun. This weekend, Late Night Tribe Live. I don't know. You're like me, right? You enjoy some of that West Coast ball. I love it. I love being up, especially in the summer when the weather's nice. You can be out on the porch with the radio. You could be, watching it, whatever it is. You get that. I'm a big night owl anyway, so I dig the West Coast games.
Yeah, that's going to be perfect. It should be a lot of fun. Hopefully they can, continue their positive momentum and maybe get a little bit closer to 500. And again, the anticipation for the Cavs, it's just kind of crazy that they have to wait so long for that series to start. But I'm sure we'll all be just jumping out of our skin by the time they actually tip it off.
It's going to be Super Bowl level hype by the time they get there.
Oh, yeah.
It's nuts. The NBA knew what they were doing there too, man. They say, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and plot this thing out there. Especially, you notice the 3-day gap between games 1 and 2 before they get back to the every other day. They know what they're doing. They know how to build that hype like a maestro throughout this thing. And the best part about that is most of the time they build the hype for 10 days and then they spend the next month telling you how it didn't live up to the hype. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Yeah. You created the hype and then go say it didn't live up to the hype. Well, of course it couldn't, because you spent 2 weeks acting like, you were about to see the most apocalyptic thing you've ever seen, and instead you're just going to see a great set of basketball games.
Right. There's only so much hype that you can put out there before anything would fall short of it.
I'm telling you, by the time the Super Bowl rolls around every year, you would think the average person would expect Tom Brady to come out floating on an airplane, and these guys would be playing in the some otherworldly stuff. So by the time we get there, LeBron and Steph Curry will be 9 feet tall, and they'll be ready to duke it out. It's going to be fun, though. I can't wait for the hype train to begin and carry into next week. Jeff, what are you working on? Speaking of next week, Indians and Browns 101. Got anything good going?
Well, probably get some news coming out of the OTAs and see if pretty much just cover how the Indians do in Seattle. But I got some Lake County Captain stuff to talk about, if you don't mind.
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, there's going to be fireworks tonight and tomorrow night against the South Bend Cubs. I'll be announcing tomorrow night. But also tonight, you know who's going to throw out the first pitch? One of your former opponents in the ring, Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
There you go, Jeff Jarrett.
Tonight.
That is right. I wrestled him on an episode of Impact about 10 years ago. There you go, man. So good luck with that, man. Of course, Jeff, you guys know that he's doing some part-time PA announcing for the Lake County Captains, so get a chance to get out there and check out one of the games that he's calling. The Captains are always a great time, man. I've got some baseball wrestling coming myself next month. They got the ball at the Brawl Park out there for the Lake Erie Crushers. That's a big one. Bret Hart's coming to town. Bret Hart will be here. Lito will be here. A couple of Samoa Joe from WWE NXT will be here.
Wow.
Yeah, some good stuff with that one, too. But I'll talk more about that later. But, yeah, so there's some great stuff coming this summer. You have some fun with the Captains this weekend. We'll get back on Tuesday. We'll wrap up the Tribe and the Mariners and do all that.
All right. Sounds like a plan, man. Thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure.
You got it. My boy, Jeff Gorman from IndiansandBrowns101.com. Always a good time catching up. We hadn't talked Tribe or Browns in a couple of weeks, so it was a good little conversation, talking some Cavs. That's the fabric that stitches it all together. NBA Finals are coming. Hey, final segment is coming. Let's take a break, get back. We'll set the stage for the weekend. And one more time, the trivia question. How can you win a copy of The Making of Major League by Jonathan Knight? I'll let you know. Wrap it up and more when we come back here on The Fix.
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear is finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, FantasyJocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD.
Kyrie split to D, goes inside, teardrops it home right down Euclid.
That's way up in there for two.
The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
Let's get it all!
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You's as good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Hi, this is Dean Chenoth, head coach of Cleveland's Lake Erie Monsters, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Final segment of the Sports Fix for the week coming your way. J-Rocc back with you. Thanks to you guys for being with us. Thanks to Jeff Gorman from IndiansandBrowns101.com. Thanks to Jonathan Knight, the sportswriter extraordinaire, for joining us to begin the show. Hey, don't forget, do you want to win a copy of The Making of Major League? It's an awesome new book by J.K. about the making of one of the greatest sports movies ever. And our Cleveland Indians, of course, a main part of it. Major League, one of the best movies, one of my favorites. And you can win a copy of the behind-the-scenes story, The Making of Major League, by our own Jonathan Knight, the sports writer extraordinary. You guys can win by answering his trivia question. Email us the answer to thesportsfix@AOL.com. I'm going to draw a winner this weekend, and I'm going to put a copy in your hands free of charge, courtesy of the Sports Fix. In the movie Major League, what was the Indians' record at the end of the regular season? In the movie Major League, what was the fictional Cleveland Indians' record at the end of the regular season? Find it, send it to us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. I'm going to draw a winner on Monday, and I'll let you guys know when we get back here with Dan Wismar when he joins us. We'll be talking about the Mariners, talking about the Tribe, and talking about the Cavs and the Warriors, and so much more as we start the month of June. Email your answers to thesportsfix@AOL.com. Somebody is going to win a copy. And, of course, you can find out more about the great book at makingofmajorleague.com or pick it up at Amazon and Books A Million and all the different places that you can pick up books, physical stores, and online everywhere. Ebooks available, all of that stuff, guys. All right, Gladiators at the Q, back at the Q tonight. Orlando Predators and the Cleveland Gladiators doing the thing as the team returns home after a couple of games away here. The action doesn't stop at the Q. They take advantage of the open weekend. 7 o'clock tonight. Of course, it's always military salute night on Friday nights there. An important game for the Gladiators. They sit 5-4, tied, same record with the Orlando Predators here as they head into this one. These two teams met earlier in the season. Gladiators in overtime. They won at the beginning about a month ago. These teams played 56-55. Gladiators lost last week 70-58 on the road to San Jose. Meanwhile, Orlando leads the South. They beat Portland 69-43. They're coming in on a 2-game winning streak. Glads are 2-2 at home. Orlando 2-2 on the road. So last week, remember, Gladiators put 52 on the board in the first half. However, only 18 in the second half as they lost to San Jose. The SaberCats put to the Monsters there in the second half of that one. Or excuse me, the Gladiators. Gladiators, Monsters. Everybody owned by the Cleveland Cavaliers, so forgive my slip there. Anyways, Gladiators back in action tonight, 7 p.m. at the Q. Next week, back on the road for 2 weeks here as the finals invade the Q. They'll be on the road in Vegas and New Orleans for their next couple of games. But they're home tonight against the Predators, guys. You know what? I'm going to go to the phones. I got a call here real quick. I got to take one last phone call. Then we'll preview the Indians here for the weekend as we get to the end of it. Caller, you're up on the Sports Fix.
Hey, J-Rocc, Daddy.
What's happening? LG, my man, you got about 2 or 3 minutes here to wrap us up.
I don't want to talk about it too much because I kind of agree with Bruce. We shouldn't really be talking about the Cleveland Browns while the Cleveland Cavaliers are in the middle of a championship run, man. And I really think that the Cavaliers are going to bring this one home, baby. You already know my feelings on that. But I wanted to touch on Deshaun Gibson just for a second. What could be the holdup that many people may not be thinking about, including myself, until one of my loyal readers of the Cleveland Sports 360 site brought it to my attention. Maybe Gibson's just asking for too much guaranteed money, J-Rocc Daddy. And although knee injuries as serious as the one he suffered near the end of the season tend to get healed and repaired more quickly than what we are used to seeing in years past, that guarantee that Gibson and his agent may be demanding just may be too much for the Browns to put on a line to put a dampener on their salary cap in years coming. Because they guaranteed him so much of a contract. That might be one sticking point.
That could be possible, and I'm not going to think about it for 2 more weeks, so I don't know.
Right,
I'm not
but
even going to answer your question.
Look forward to the night of the Cleveland Indians sending 4-1 Trevor Bauer to the mound. We got to like what we're seeing out of Bauer this year, J-Rocc. This is the first year that this guy's starting to look like the promise that we thought we were going to have when the Indians signed him. Obviously, Mickey Callaway finally found a way to break through the thick skull of this young kid.
I agree. Trevor Bauer has really – we talked coming into the season, he was one of the X factors, and the questions was he at a tipping point with the Indians? Which way would he go? Would he allow them to really help him become a finished product? Early on, we've seen that. He's been pounding the zone. He was effectively wild. We like to joke early. It got him into some trouble in those couple of starts, but then since then, he's really locked it in the last month, and I agree with you. I think we're really just beginning to scratch the surface on what this kid can do.
If he can continue to keep up what he's doing, I mean, his last 3 starts, he's got a 1.21 ERA, J-Rocc, since that couple of games where he gave up 11 runs. I mean, being a little wild in the beginning is pretty good because that gets the hitters a little bit afraid of you, man. So you never know what's going to be delivered to the plate.
For
like
sure,
wild
but you know what?
From,
you go back to last start, and that was a good start for him. He went almost 8 innings, no walks. Even though he's the club leader with 22 walks on the staff, that was a good sign there. And I'm with you. You don't have to throw strikes on every one. There is, as you said, an advantage to keeping guys off balance. But he was walking that line, and the more, as we saw, the more he reins that in, then the longer he can be effective in these games. We saw him we saw the no-hitter where he wasn't able to go out there and keep going because he had pitched so much in the first few innings. That's the stuff. And he's seeing him go deeper in games, not waste as many at-bats and pitches. Those, to me, show signs of growth. I'm with you. I'm excited to see what he's done, and hopefully he can keep it going tonight. Those last 3 starts, 1.2 ERA, he's really been rolling, and I'd like to see how he follows that up here against Seattle tonight. I
got to tell you one other thing, J-Rocc. You're right about this Jason Kipnis. I mean, 449 average, 532 on base percentage. I mean, this guy, 16 RBIs, unbelievable, man. And he's still got a few days left in this month. I mean, this guy may set a record that is unobtainable for years to come, man. I'm very impressed with. One thing I haven't followed is how's his errors this season, J-Rocc? Is he doing better defensively out in the field than in the past as well?
I mean, Jason Kipnis is never going to be, the second coming of Roberto Alomar over there or whatever. But to be honest with you, I'll let you know his error total in a second. But I think that. I'll tell you, first off, at this level of offensive production, it doesn't matter. When you're producing at this level, you can make a few errors. But no, he has been effective in the field as well. His wins above replacement is just at a skyrocket level. Literally, it's close to 3, which means he's worth. That's a very high number in those advanced metrics here as far as if you were to replace him with what he's done so far. But anyways, pulling up his defensive stats here as soon as my computer wants to cooperate.
Yeah, because I just haven't followed it to see what his fielding is, because he's always been a guy to have a little bit. But you're right. I mean, when a guy's on fire like this, so what? He makes a few mistakes out in the field. But you got to like it. You got to love what you're seeing out of the Cleveland Indians right now. They're playing a pretty evenly matched team with the Seattle Mariners tonight. As a matter of fact, if the Indians can pull off another victory, J-Rocc, both teams will have the same record. And Seattle's a team that put a whole boatload of money on the line to bring in some guys like King Hernandez and all those people. They got to be just as disappointed as the Indians fans were in the early going with how things are going in Seattle right now. But I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to another Indians victory. I'm looking forward to next Thursday when LeBron James takes the court. And if you think about it, when you're a young pitcher like Trevor Bauer and you got a guy like Corey Kluber who won the Cy Young Award, it's like having LeBron James to look up to when you're Kyrie Irving. You know what I'm saying, J-Rocc?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Just continue to get better, you know?
I know exactly what you're saying. And by the way, to your
brother. Well, you have a great
initial
weekend.
Question, LG, real quick before I let you go.
Yeah.
Jason Kipnis, he's got 2 errors on the season so far. He's got a 990 fielding percentage, which is not the, some people use
But
different
it's 47 games, 2 errors. I'll take it, J-Rocc.
Yeah, he's on pace to do slightly better than last season. Much better than in 2013 when he had 12 errors in 147 games. He's slightly better than his career average so far. So, yeah, but again, with the offensive production you've gotten, definitely that's much more tolerable. But he's never been, again, Roberto Alomar over there. But, man, I'll take it if he's going to keep doing what he's doing for as long as he can.
Well, you know what, J-Rocc, Daddy? When you're stressed out at the plate as much as Kipnis was, getting into those little lulls where he went hitless and you're doing as good as he is now, just think of what kind of stress that relieves for the rest of your game. Maybe you're not trying as hard in the field because, sometimes you could try too hard and it would lead to a mistake. So maybe if he keeps hitting the way he's hitting, or even, let's be honest, if he hits a third of the way he's hitting for the rest of the year, he's going to have a phenomenal 2015 baseball season, and maybe that's going to help him as an infielder as well,
I absolutely agree. LG, my man, great phone call, and let's do
All
it
right,
next week,
Daddy,
man.
have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon. We'll talk a little Cavs before next Thursday, and I'm excited, man. I'm still excited. I'm trying to keep it in check. I got to see what's going to happen in Game 1. I don't expect this to be that close of games, as you were talking earlier. I really think we haven't even seen this Cavaliers peak team yet.
I agree.
think these guys will continue to get better. I think people are going to be surprised coming out next Thursday how well that this team is going to play against the Warriors, baby. That's just my feeling. I hope I'm right, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend, J-Rocc, Daddy. Keep up that good work.
Thank you, my man, LG, and he's right. I think that we've all said this over the last few weeks. Each round, each game, the Cavaliers still haven't peaked yet. They're still getting better as we go. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about it. We'll preview it. We got to build up for our own next week here as we head into the first game of the NBA Finals. Dan Wismar is going to kick off the week with us on Monday here from the Cleveland Fan, and Everybody Hates Cleveland. We'll talk Tribe. We'll talk NBA Finals. We'll talk all the things going on in the news, you guys. And we're going to let you know who won a copy of Jonathan Knight's book, Making a Major League. All you've got to do is email the answer to, in the movie Major League, what was the fictional Cleveland Indians record at the end of the regular season? Email it to thesportsfix@AOL.com. Thesportsfix@AOL.com. Send us your answer. We'll pick a winner, and we'll announce it on Monday when we kick off another week and another month. June is upon us here on the Sports Fix. Guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy some late night Tribe Live. As we said, Trevor Bauer taking the bump for the Indians tonight against Tawan Walker. Sean Markham back out there tomorrow against the lefty Elias. And then on Sunday, Danny Salazar mopping it up against J.A. Happ. A couple of lefties going against the Tribe here. Then they kick things off. Day off on Monday. Tuesday, Kansas City. In Kansas City with Carrasco on the mound. Come Monday, we'll talk Tribe, Cavs, news, and more with Dan Wismar and you, baby. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you in June. Kicking it off on Monday. Here, same bat time, same bat channel. You know the deal by now. Have a great one. We love you. Cleveland and beyond. We'll see you Monday at noon right here on The Fix.